All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Putin pal threatens Armageddon nuclear attack on D.C. and London if Russia has to give back any of the territory of Ukraine. We mentioned this in our last video, but as far as who is saying it, it's Medvedev. Now, mind you, a lot of people do not pay him any mind because it's Medvedev. He says a lot of crazy stuff. But at the same point, he is not without position. He actually has a very powerful position. He is the former president or former leader of Russia, and he is still in some sort of backwards power position. So this is not something that, everybody is going to have on the front of their mind. But when you put this with everything else, it's just one more thing that, of course, the news is going to push fear. As far as should you be fearful, well, there are reasons you should be concerned, and there are reasons that you should actually be preparing. But most of them have nothing to do with Russia. A close ally of Vladimir Putin warned Sunday that Russia will launch Armageddon by nuking cities such as Washington and London if Moscow is forced to give up UKR territory it has taken over, according to reports. Dmitry Medvedev, Deputy Secretary of the Russian Security Council and former Russian President and Prime Minister, threatened that the U.S. and its allies would pay the ultimate price if Russia is forced to retreat. Now, why is he even saying if they're forced to retreat? If you look at the setup that is happening right now, you see all of the NATO countries telling their people, like, Russia's going to attack us. They're going to attack us. There's an imminent attack. What if somebody wearing military garb in a certain country ends up attacking? Well, that could definitely start a war. What if it's a Fantastic Freddy? What if it's a guy named, Bob Wishlander who, is dressed like Vladimir Davatsky? And that person does something and it's part of some sort of op. That is what people are concerned about. And for good reason. Those have events like that have started a lot of crazy, crazy wars. So with this, it is getting absolutely nuts. Tonight, we have so much on the docket on top of everything that is happening and being said about even nuking Washington and everything else. There's a whole lot more. In fact, tonight, we are going to be talking about sudden NATO attack soon. That we'll quote exactly what they're saying. We're not. This isn't us saying this. This is them. Finland preparing with public shooting ranges. We have German commander warns of an EMP. We have NATO not afraid of EMPs. We have FBI warning still targeting infrastructure, talking about our critical infrastructure and how they believe it may go down. Dozens of Chinese migrants spotted. China plus Hungary equals no Sweden. We have China dumping cyanide in the ocean, allegedly taking away all of the fish from the Philippines. Houthis go underwater, and we have one ship sunk, two more attacked. We have largest naval battle since World War II. We're going to talk about Navalny's, quote, murder plot revealed. And, of course, truckers boycotting New York. Why are we sending 100,000 people to Mars? And we are also going to be talking about the person that just got put in charge of, or one of the people in charge of the ballot day in California, who is not even a citizen, nor can speak our language, let alone where they are from, will kind of shock you. So all of that today, don't want to miss this one. And again, hopefully you share this one out with friends and family that are telling you you're the crazy one. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, as always, if you go to our website, this is why you share this with the people in your life that are saying you're crazy and nut job. Usually those people are religiously following MSM and saying, oh, well, I have an article to show you. Oh. Then you go ahead and tell them to go to our website, and they can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Now, when you're watching this, if somebody has shared us with you, I mean no offense, but again, a lot of folks are really in the dark about what is going on. And if you are religiously following this, then you probably missed a few things. They are telling us exactly what they plan on doing or happening. So make sure to go check this out. You will not see tabloids in here. You'll see mostly all of the respected news agencies telling us the end of the world is right around the corner. But yet we are the fearmongers by putting 2 and 2 plus together. Mind you, there is a motivation behind all of this crazy stuff going on. That is what we don't know for sure. But most of the things that happen, there has been news archived before the event that shows exactly what was going to happen. People just didn't pay attention. That's what we do here. So make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. Speaking of which, Linda Brunette, thank you for joining us 11 minutes ago. Thank you for subscribing. Elvira N. and Javi Villa, thank you so much for subscribing. And as always, if you subscribe during tonight's live show, you will get a shout out. This is a live show. Anything can happen. And as well, we put it together all day to make sure that we have everything and anything that has happened in the last 24 hours. If we miss something, you can pop it in the live chat, and we can most likely add it before the show is over. Not only that, we can also put the link and bibliography over on the website, marfooglenews.com. Just look for today's thumbnail. Warning, nukes and what comes next. All right, so, and again, we also make sure to have the full map so you can have a geography lesson as well. We're going to go over from Russia. We're going to go over to Lithuania. Russia may suddenly attack NATO. There's no telling how much time we have left. That is according to the Lithuanian foreign minister. Let's go over to our co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on? And how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. It's yet another message coming from a NATO member, but this time they're putting a sort of this time box on it, or at least a lack of one. But they're basically saying, we don't know, time is running out. Like, there's no telling how much time we have left for the big, scary invasion from Russia. So, again, we've heard it from just about every single NATO member. And even our own DOD has said it. They've all said it. They're all, coming to the same conclusion that evil Russia will be invading them at some point. Some of them are preparing for it immediately. Some of them are saying we don't know how soon it is. Some of them are saying the next 2 to 3 years. But Lithuania and others up in that first quadrant, as they call it, of the north, where they would come in, not Finland, but right below there, near Estonia, I think is going to be the first one right there. But in that general area.
And Kaliningrad, they are neighbors directly with Russia.
Exactly.
Russia's over here, just to remind you, we've talked about Kaliningrad. Poland's right here. They're the ones who put the dragon's teeth along all of their borders. At least the ones facing Belarus or facing Russia, and then facing Kaliningrad. This is Russia's territory. This is Russia. Not to mention it's a port that has water access, so if Russia wants to get something down there, they can, and they can legally do so. Lithuania is right here. So these are the guys saying this. Again, go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, they'll pinch them off from Estonia down to Kaliningrad. So that's the first place. And so they're one of the ones that are probably most concerned about this apparent aggression that's supposed to happen at some point. And I'm not trying to make it completely sarcasm, but at the same time, we hear this, we've heard it from the other side, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this, or they're going to do that. And then we hear it from our side, being the West, saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. At the end of the day, we won't know if it's truly going to happen, when it's going to happen, other than we do know that they're both preparing for it, and that has an effect on us. And what is that effect on us, and what do we need to be able to do to prepare ourselves, prepare our families for what the fallout is of a European conflict if it actually happens? What is that going to mean to our friends and family that get shipped off? What is that going to mean to any part of that would actually come to the States, for that matter, for those of us that live in the States, and to what extent that would happen, or something would happen to us here in the States? So that's sort of the way I look at it. I have no way of determining if it's authentic or orchestrated.
And Dex, you did you catch this? So one thing that out of this was like really like, whoa, okay. So first of all, it says Landbergus stated that the West should not wait for, quote, a second Pearl Harbor. How many times have I said that this is what we are expecting? And by the way, somebody commented on that. I am so sorry. I'll just turn it off. Sorry, I know that's incredibly distracting. I don't like that either when there's lights and stuff changing in the background. So no, I get you. Usually it's on so slow that you can't even notice that it's changing. So second Pearl Harbor. Are you like anybody that's been here for a long time? All you Foogle fam that have been here for a long time, since I was doing videos in my car, I've talked about this. If you look at throughout history, and I'm not a master's degree in history, but it is my hobby. It's what I do in my off time. If I'm not watching DoD releases or stupid press conferences, I'm watching history about World War I, World War II, the civil conflict, and you see so many things that we have in common. And I've pointed out many of these things. We've even done videos of the compilations about how history is repeating itself right now. I mean, even from the attitude, it's like people that, because they know that most people do not remember history, or they've even now they're straight up changing history books. They're not teaching regular history in high school. The kids now they don't learn cursive. They don't learn an analog clock. They don't learn a lot now. But we all learned our history, and a lot of people didn't pay much attention. Not everybody's a history buff. But if you are, you will realize that the governments that have run the world for a very long time, these same governments have playbooks. There are certain plans that they sit at the table. Oh, do you remember, we could do the Lithuania 67. That one worked really well. There are plans for these things, right? And I just made that up as an example, but, like, oh, let's do what we did on Dysar 9 back in 76. That same kind of thing happens over and over again. And you can see with what is happening right now, the second Pearl Harbor, when they're talking about that, they mean a surprise attack, just like Pearl Harbor, where we didn't expect it. And then all of a sudden, the entire country is got their fists up in the air saying, we need to go to war. They're demanding their politicians get into war. Sort of like what's happening right now. The Russian people, if you didn't know, almost all Russia has actually been calling on Putin, saying that Putin is soft, that Putin isn't doing enough, that he should be going into NATO. There are folks all over Russia that not only support the conflict. If you saw when Wagner was going through the town, you'll see townspeople coming out by the droves, cheering them on as war heroes. They supported this conflict. They are saying, hey, you need to be tougher. It's part of Russian culture, saying Russia, the motherland, like this place, we're the toughest, the baddest mofos out here. They can't punk us. And part of it is also their TV and everything they consume, everything they watch is internal. They control everything that goes out on TV. They control the message. If you control the news, if you control the media, which again, no difference from here, then you can control the narrative. The problem with the rest of the world, though, is, and again, this is why Russia decided to make their internet an intranet. If they want to, they can completely cut it off from the rest of the world, which if you saw, When Wagner was invading Russia or going on and doing his thing, nobody really cared that they turned off Google. They turned off all of the major search websites for like 4 or 5 hours. During that whole thing where he was supposed to be taking over, they turned off the internet. I wonder why that happened. Maybe because they got video of them marching through. As civilians saw it, they said, oh, Wagner's just marching through the streets. Cool. They came out and clapped him on. How they took those videos and used them is they said, oh, Wagner, everybody's cheering on Wagner to take over Putin. Putin's so bad that the people are cheering on Wagner for that. No, they're not. They were cheering Wagner on because they thought war heroes were coming through the streets. They support the war. See how they were able to twist that? As far as Putin, he didn't want the people there seeing the rest of the Western media spinning it like that, and they're able to just turn it off. They can turn off what they want from the outside country. With this is obvious what is happening here. They're setting up for another Pearl Harbor. A Pearl Harbor doesn't have to be at Pearl Harbor. It could be a surprise attack. They've said it so many times. They've not only said it with Russia, but they've also said it with North Korea. Because this is a world war. When this pops off, it's going to be all of these countries at the same time. North Korea, remember they said that North Korea is going to do an event, and they compared it directly. This is about a month and a half ago to what the Hamas did to Israel. They said that it would be a Hamas-style attack on South Korea, that they would just start shooting artillery over the border. Now, to make it look like that in South Korea, if it was hypothetically something that didn't actually happen and they just wanted to start it, or North Korea actually did it, it wouldn't be that hard either way to make it look like, oh, the North is attacking. Then it starts off a war. One thing could trigger all of it. But the support for the conflict in Ukraine, it's gone. Nobody cares about it. Nobody wants their tax dollars going towards it. So a lot of people are looking at the fear that's being put out right now and thinking, oh, this is just to get more money to UKR. But this is bigger than that. There's going to be a lot more money involved when this is a world war. And the people that are at the very top of the military-industrial complex, the politicians that are getting paid by those same military-industrial complexes, those people are going to be in a safe spot. Their whole families and all of their friends will be in a safe spot, and they will be making money hand over fist. So much money that no normal person like us will ever conceive of how much money they are going to make. And on top of that, they have a spot at the table when it's all over, and they will have control over a portion of it. That's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. The messaging here is not just all BS. It's setting up. It's doing the framework to set us up on what to expect and how to think. But you always have to think outside the box with this stuff because they're obviously implanting things in the back of your head. People expect it. People expect a second Pearl Harbor. I've seen it being set up for over 5 years, and I told you, a second Pearl Harbor. We cannot wait until Russia actually attacks every European country in the south, north, east, and west. Russia can do that. Our security is interconnected. If Lithuania is in danger, so are the other parts of Europe. We have to stand together and defend ourselves. What they're even suggesting, if they go with this guy, is that they would do something first or go on the offensive or be ready at the first drop of a dime to go to war. If NATO goes to war, the U.S. goes to war. If U.S. goes to war, all of our allies are involved too. And I'm pretty sure almost all of you are watching from an allied country. So keep in mind, this war will be affecting the entire world. All right, and then thank you. Let's do a quick, before we get into even more crazy stuff, if you're easily panicked, I'd highly recommend you tune out. Again, it's all voluntary here. You don't have to watch the show. If you're easily stressed by this kind of stuff, maybe not watch it. Or if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. That's your choice. Same with this YouTube channel. If you don't want to watch it, there's 2 billion more out there that you have time and the ability to watch. So if you don't like my opinion or our opinions, again, it's all voluntary. So let's go over to the chat, and thank you for those of you that have been here for a very long time or are popping back in after a long time. Thank you for checking in on us. Randy, man, Ilea, hey, nice to see you. How are you doing, Ilea? Dale Val, Andy Mack, Darth V, Itchy Ender. We've got Sean James. Viewer discretion advised. Exactly. Everybody has, most of you are adults here. I would say 99.9% are over 35. So you have the choice. Russia is not a NATO member. Yeah, no. Did somebody say that Russia was a NATO member? Peter, SEKS. We've got Kansas City in the house. St. Louis, Judy Bira. Canadian, Texas. What's going on? Cincinnati, Ohio. Are you saying you're a Canadian, but you're in Texas? Let's see here. Country, Victoria, Australia. Janine D. Nice to see you. Terry Snyder, Kettle Falls, Northeast Washington State. Hey, nice to see you, Terry. Nice. I feel like we were... Dwayne Roberts is here. I feel like somebody just sent me a message, a Terry. Rusty McMartin, Matt Thomas, Cincinnati. We've got Tri-Cities, Washington State. We have Calgary, Trudeau land. And then Westport, I'll send some bucks to Zelensky. I didn't catch the rest. Probably sarcasm. Saskatchewan, we've got lots of Canada in the house. Perth, Ontario, Canada. Devin Cutmore. Indiana, Fort Worth, Texas. Say hi to Jody in Fort Wayne. Hey, Jody. Nice to see you. Cascade Foothills, Briar Patch, Sally Brill, because I read it as BC, Nevada. I read it as a short speech, right? That's horrible. OMG. All right, and then West Palm Beach and everybody else. London Stan and London Stan. If you get that, then you get that. All right, it's Salem, Oregon, and Muleshoe, Texas. Can't talk today. Sally, genius by birth from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Man, so many Canadians are in the chat tonight. James Dameron. They have been shipping their supplies for years. Yes, if you're talking about military supplies being moved around, yes, I agree with you. All right. So over to the map, we're going to go over to Finland is to open 300 shooting ranges to boost interest in national defense. So my first reaction was like, wait, what? So how does this boost defense? Get people involved with bang bangs and they'll be more, like, hey, hoorah. They'll put the weapon in their hand and feel powerful and go, yeah, war. But no, basically everyone in Finland is required to do service. So Dex, do you want to explain why opening up 300 ranges, why this actually is really important and why this is kind of freaky?
Well, and let's face it, it's not even just 300. They're taking the number from 600 to 700 up to 1,000 ranges. So look, everybody in the country, under the Constitution there, every male between the ages of 18 and 60 must complete National Army service. But the government is hoping that these civilians will keep their weapon skills after the period of the conscription by putting in more and more of these ranges. And of course, they want to do that because of their need for national defense. So the increase is because of the Finnish defense model, because of our defense model, which benefits from our people having and developing their shooting skills on their own. That's the quote. So, and they are basically trying to get prepared, and they want to make sure that every male who's already been through conscription or is going through will maintain that level of skill by putting out up to now 1,000 of these ranges, these firing ranges that they can go practice at.
Is
So
this not
600 now?
like completely backwards from the United States, where they're trying to remove weapons from people's hands? Here, they're trying to put them in the men's hands, right? This is like they're trying to encourage it. This is completely opposite. As far as opening up these ranges, look at what they're doing. They're trying to, they understand, why people say that America would be really hard to invade is because of how many people are armed. It is not an easy place to invade. Finland is saying, hey, we need more weapons in more people's hands. We want them to be more skilled. And as Dex said, it could be because they are trying to keep them as skilled as possible, because then later on they're going to drag them in and say, hey, we're going to draft you into the war. We want as many skilled people with weapons as possible. All of these smaller countries, their military is nothing compared to the U.S. The U.S. has an incredible military, high-tech military. Some of these places, like the UK, Isn't it UK that only has 75,000 soldiers? That's not a lot when you look at a place like Iran that not only has, what was it, close to 2 million or something active with all their reserves. Or no, sorry, it was 780,000 with all their reserves. But get this, they have the Bajaj. It's a word for, basically it's their like community militia type thing. They have 23 plus million in this Baram, whatever it is, essentially in all of the towns and villages. If you're part of the Baram or whatever it's called, then you are not only armed, but you are also more likely to be, put into positions of power, into law enforcement, into politics, into running your village. These groups, they can be called up. You're talking about at the drop of a dime, even if they grabbed half, they could have 15 million or 10 million people, a 10 million army strong of people that practice with weapons. Where you look at somewhere like Finland, their military is just, nothing compared to that. And I say Iran and not Russia because everybody is going to be fighting everybody in this. There's going to be Iranian soldiers in Russia. There's going to be Russian soldiers in Taiwan. You never know the mix-up that will happen once it all starts going south. Because a world war, we will see people trucked all over the world. And then, all right. And then before we move on, make sure if you want to protect yourself against EMP, we've talked about this for years. This is a device that is a very simple solution to the problem that they say has now arisen. This isn't something recent. We've talked about this for 5 years now, and the framework for an EMP has been set up a long time ago. Now, finally, they are starting to really, really talk about it in other countries. They're trying to harden grids, but they're nowhere close to getting it done. Now, again, this is a device that can protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, home, generators, gas, and even solar in the case of the Flex, from not only an EMP strike, multiple EMP strikes, and a Carrington-level event from the sun. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You can do this yourself. You don't have to be a tech whiz. In fact, anybody could put this in your car. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or a part of your frame, and then you just bolt it into the side wherever you have room. Then you are done. In about 10 minutes, you can have your car protected so it will run after multiple EMP strikes or a Carrington-level event from the sun. We're in solar cycle 25 right now. Highly recommend it. Again, if they are out of the regular EMP shield, because obviously right now there's so much talk about EMPs that people are definitely grabbing these up. Go for the micro. They most likely will have the micro if they don't have the big one. It's a couple bucks more. It's a quarter of the size and all of the same protection. It's even easier to put in to different vehicles. So again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use that code MARF because you'll save $50 off per device. All right. And then, and they are made in Kansas by hand. And again, a veteran-owned company, everything made here in the U.S. And then German space commander warns Russian nuclear weapon could destroy global commons. Nobody would survive. Dex, those are like insanely crazy comments. Hopefully he's exaggerating.
Yeah, certainly. And we covered this over on our news channel. So if you're looking for a short that you want to share with your friends and family, that's a great one to do. Make sure you go grab it. It's the last one we just did. We'll have it linked at the end of the show. Look, the update here specifically is now that everything we've been talking about last week with this whole notion of an EMP in space, it's now gone national. National in the sense that our allies are now talking about it. So Germany is coming out and saying, look, if this happens, it's going to destroy all of the space or area in which the satellites and any usable area that would be up there. But again, they're not going so far as to say that if an EMP goes off, it's going to harm everybody on Earth. Now, he did say nobody would survive in the sense that nobody would survive, meaning all of the enemies or all of the allies that are up there with their satellites. And nobody would probably survive with the consequences of the communications failures that go on and the loss of certain other things. But what he didn't go as far as to say is to mention, oh, by the way, when that EMP goes off that they're talking about, it'll actually have an effect, whether it's over Europe or over America or over both. It will have a effect on the power grids. It'll have an effect on any device or any systems that have wires in them, like houses or your grid, your power grid, or cars, because they all induct those ions from the EMP, and that induction into the power lines is what spikes and then burns everything out that's plugged in, or in the case of a car, the whole thing's wired together. Or in the case of the power grid, obviously transformers and all the different components in the big power grids will all just get this massive charge from that induction into the copper wire. They don't mention any of that, but the message has gone national. It's moved beyond our Congress, beyond our president. Now it's in NATO hands, and they're talking about it.
It's all of the coverage around the world of this. It's really insane that our world, the entire world, doesn't matter what country you're in, because of how connected all of the internet is and how connected all of the media is. Across the planet, people do not believe mainstream or legacy media. When they put something out like this, if this happened 30 years ago, everybody would be paying attention to it. Now, nobody will. They'll think, oh, it's not going to happen because they said it's going to happen. At the same time, this is 4D chess. There are definitely motivations for all of these events to happen. Most of us can't see it because it's absolutely so horrid that we couldn't imagine that somebody would do this on purpose, that would start a world war for no reason. Our lifetimes, we haven't seen a world war. We haven't seen the horrendous war like World War II. Some of you may be old enough to remember World War II, but we have been so distanced from it. We think, oh, we're evolved. We're technologically advanced. There's no reason for it. We're civilized now. It doesn't matter how civilized or how technologically advanced we will be. You can talk to any expert on the world, and they will tell you this will happen every so once in a while until we evolve into a type 1 civilization, which I highly doubt we're going to make it, at least. Then we're going to fight. We're not going to get along. And to believe in the world that is more divided than ever, right down the middle, it doesn't matter what country you are in, there is a left versus right battle right now. No matter what country you are in, there's us versus the immigrants battle. There's this color versus that color. There's old versus young. There's this religion versus that religion. And you think that this, primed as it is, with all of the divisions, my country versus your country, this versus that, you think that right now it isn't going to happen? We weren't this divided in World War II. There was division very similar, like history repeats itself, but we were not this divided in every country internally in any other instance like this. This is because now the influence can get to any country through the internet. This time, World War III really will, I think, will have their causes in history. They'll look back and go, the internet caused this. And it's not the internet's fault. It's the people that are infiltrating all of this and their fault. The powers that be that we have no idea who they actually are. We don't know what is actually Ganda, what is truth. We don't know what is propaganda. We don't know what's not. But we do know one thing. It's a fact. We are more divided than we have ever been in every category. And people think we're not going to war? That's kind of silly if you really think about it. People can't even get along in a general room. If there's more than 5 people, there are going to be 2 people that are going to want to wring each other's necks. And you think that on a global stage, we're all going to get along? That's ignorance. That's my opinion. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you. And by the way, there's solutions to this, just like anything else. You can survive all of this. Earthquakes are survivable. Storms are survivable. Disasters are survivable if you are prepared for them. Also, part of preparing is being spiritually ready for it, being mentally aware for it. Many people will totally and completely be in the dark when this happens. figuratively and literally. Stormhawk, Chicago's America's outdoor shooting range. America's outdoor shooting range? Yeah, Chicago. I shouldn't laugh. It is so sad in Chicago. Every weekend they have the same amount of people perishing from that as they compared it. One place in 30 years has not had what one Friday night has had in Chicago. Grace, for you too. Thank you so much. Carol, thank you so much. Yeah, there's bigger cities in the United States that have not had in 20 or 30 years the amount of people perishing as Chicago has on a single Friday night. I believe they compared it to one of the record Friday nights. And that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, continued. So they like tripled that number in a weekend. And then Alex Hawkins says, remember dark, Brandon? Warned us dark winter comes. There's been a lot of just messaging around winter about this and that for a few years. And every winter we're thinking like, this one is going to be crazy. Come November, we'll see what ends up happening here. All right, and then back to the map. Let's go over to Belgium. NATO cannot be afraid of Russia's space nukes. There's so much talk about this that because there is so much talk. Oh, that's so creepy. I know it's just what the other language, the siege de OTAN. But it looks like, what does siege mean? I know what it means in English, but the siege day of the building of NATO, or
That's the headquarters of NATO. So I'm assuming that's what they mean by that word.
siege. I don't know how the little marks make it different of OTAN, but doesn't that look like Satan in another? It's just creepy looking. New city vegetable garden at NATO. God, they've got a vegetable garden in NATO, probably a greenhouse. They probably also have a peace room or one of those rooms you can go in, or only certain people can go in. Anyways, Dex, do you want to talk about NATO cannot be afraid of Russia's space nukes?
So again, we have not just Germany coming out, which is a NATO member, but NATO officially coming out and saying, hey, we need to not worry about the nukes that they keep threatening because we have to focus on UKR. That's the most important thing for NATO right now. But in the process of that, they did mention the fact that there's the nukes in Belarus, there's the threat of the nukes in other locations, and of course now there's the new threat of the nukes in space, or the EMPs, as we've talked about them. So they are, yet again, just like we heard Germany, now we've got NATO acknowledging this threat, trying to downplay it again, but certainly acknowledging that there is this obvious threat of potential nukes in space, if not already there, or potentially going to be launched there. As we all know, we've talked about this for a long time. We know they're there. They've been there. They've had them for a long time, and they also have the ability to launch them without them looking like a ballistic missile, because you can launch it to look like a space launch and use a what's called FOBS, fractional orbital bombardment system, to come around and detonate one in the upper atmosphere, and it would look like a regular space launch. So yeah, nonetheless, they're saying we're not worried about it. We have to focus on UKR. That's the most important thing. But again, acknowledging the fact that this is happening and that these, weapons can, they say they can't cause physical damage and destruction here on Earth. That's a cute way of saying, it's not going to hurt you, when in reality it can. But we know that. We've all talked about that, and we're not going to beat that subject into the ground as much as just talking about the idea that they are spreading this word across the globe. And I guess, we've gone Germany, we've gone NATO. I imagine in the coming days, we're going to hear more and more notions of this from other countries.
I just have to reiterate that. I know that everybody is just torn. It's like, I think this is the real deal. If my opinion has any value at all, I hope that people listen, because I think when this all goes down, we're not going to have each other to communicate with this. Just like I thought that CV was going to happen. I knew that there was strange stuff. Go back and look at those videos. I feel the same way about this, and I know a lot of you agree with that. Munich, Germany, FBI director warns China's computer attacks are now part of a scale greater than we'd seen before, as vulnerable critical infrastructure remains at high risk to be targeted. So some really key points, and remember, you can go over to the news video if you want to share this out. But China's cyber attacks have grown to a scale greater than we've seen before. The FBI director has advised amid fears that U.S. infrastructure is under threat. Christopher Wray gave the grave warning as intelligence chiefs and politicians met at the Munich Annual Security Conference on Sunday. According to the Wall Street Journal, the wars raging in the UKR and Middle East were the focus of the conference, but Wray urged leaders not to lose sight of a subtler menace. He said Beijing's plan to secretly plant technology inside U.S. critical infrastructure has become a significant threat to national security. Wray cited Volt Typhoon, the moniker given to the Chinese hacking network that infiltrated the U.S. last year, but it said it's only the tip of the iceberg. Now, whether you believe the FBI or not, remember, FBI has been critical in a ton of different things that people have basically considered an op, right? And as far as what they are saying globally, what they are telling sheriffs in their meeting, in their intels, in their briefings, they have told them a whole lot more. Now, that sheriff's meeting, we have actually gotten some information we cannot share yet. Waiting to hear back from, but there was a lot of sheriffs that were involved in this. And what they said is what Sheriff Rick Jones said was actually really, really intelligently put, because he didn't say anything that could get him in trouble, but he gave most of the information given at that meeting. He said that there was key points missing that they said were not allowed to be told to the public. Now, we can't say a couple of the things, and I'm trying to put this the correct way, but I will say this. Pay attention to what they're saying. The thing that they said in that Rick Jones meeting, and this is a video you can go watch. We covered that. We read you the transcript of it. The sheriff basically told you that the president is not communicating with the sheriffs around the country, that sheriffs in general and local government is at threat, that they're not just going to go over the national event in November, but they're going to go local events. They're going to go after the infrastructure of all that. Not only that, that he made an instance of how they made an example of what happened in Israel. Mind you, that part of could have been their Ganda way of saying, like, you know, who saved the day? The government, the military didn't save the day. The local police did. What's really crappy is he's basically saying when this all goes down and the lights are out, communications are cut, that the military is going to be so busy with the world war, and that's what he's said. The military is going to be busy elsewhere. The only people that will be able to save you is your local police. Now, this is very scary for me in Washington because we have not treated our police here very well at all. In most metropolises, you haven't either. Now, out in the country, I bet those guys probably get some handshakes, probably get some salutes, probably get some, hey, thank you for your service every day. Here, people were spitting on our police. People were cutting our police. People were cutting their hours down to the point where they couldn't survive with our crazy, crazy inflated cost here. In a place like here, I bet those cops are going to say, F you. You were trying to take my job and take my career away. Very scary for that. Out in the country, I'm closer to the country. I bet you the sheriffs will be the ones who end up gathering together or trying to keep things organized when things go down. But also, you could have sheriff's departments that were treated so badly over the last couple of years that they could frickin' take things upon themselves to run things like they want to. The president is not communicating with the sheriffs at all. Why? Why is there that divide? Why are they saying that the president does not want to communicate with the president or the vice president of the sheriffs? Why is he not communicating with the police chiefs? This is very important. If you've seen the movie Dragon Day, that's a silly movie, or at least a silly bad budget movie, but the premise and the plot is absolutely a terrifying real event scenario. The little things in the movie, those could be wiggled around, but the main concept of having people here in our country already, it is playing out. That movie was made back in 2012. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. Another true fact about that is a lot of things here were built with Chinese technology for years and years. For decades, we've been sending things off to be made cheaply over in China. This was all for the bottom dollar, for the bottom US dollar, get as much out of everything as you can. We built it as cheap as possible, including super high-tech stuff. These corporations from around the world sent it to China to build, even gave China the blueprints how to make it the correct way with extremely expensive and high-tech parts, but to do it cheap as possible with the cheap labor. So you've not only given them the ability to have high-tech and to build high-tech, but you also gave them the ability and the blueprints for different types of manufacturing. China can out-manufacture us 100 to 1. U.S. is not a manufacturing company anymore. You hear our president say, we're going to go back to Made in America. Is that because America will be part of China? That's what freaks me out, is if you think there are infiltrators inside our country that are actually helping other countries and their agendas, it'd be quite freaky to say, oh, it's going to go back to built in America because America will be a subset of something else, right? Maybe our labor costs will be just as low at some point. And maybe the expensive place, the beautiful place to live will be Russia. By the way that Tucker makes it sound, maybe that's the new America, right? And I'm being facetious, but man, they are telling us all of this at a time which is after 5 years of the framework of this actually being set up. Most people will not be ready. I guess I'm not trying to convince anybody that this is going to happen. I'm more calling out to the people that already know that something is going to happen and to get prepared, to get ready for anything, including some sort of orchestrated event that will make us beg for our safety to be reinstated and restored. Dex, as far as the scale greater than we've ever seen, this has been repeated to us for now a month. They're heavily talking about EMP and being hacked. They're talking about our grid. They're talking about everything else. This is something we have seen being set up for years, and now it's here. No one believes it. The boy who cried wolf.
Well, look, we've said it, and I know I've said it numerous times for years, that the way they're going to do this is to lie dormant, and they've already been there. And that when it happens, when the enemy strikes our grid with cyber, or strikes our utilities with cyber, or strikes anything with cyber, it's not because they found the opening that day and got in. It's because they were sitting there for many years, maybe even a decade or more, waiting for the moment. This is what they have detected was one of the first exposures of that. There's probably been others, but one of the first big ones, specifically in ERCOT, specifically in Public Utility Commission of Texas, specifically in Hawaii and other areas and Hawaii is a big important one because of the role it will play if a conflict breaks out with Taiwan or anywhere in the Pacific. Hawaii has got a huge role. And if they can take down infrastructure there, that's another way of, stopping and making Hawaii not useful for our military. So, but, we have, and for years have bought hardware, we have bought components, we have bought software and all sorts of things that have come or had some way or form touched by China, and we've installed it in places. Or we've even bought stuff that maybe wasn't from China, but it just had lacking security or default passwords or simple things like that they're able to figure out and infiltrate. And we've left that stuff in, and we didn't put the proper security measures around it. And there's a litany of that sitting out across all of our utilities. Utilities are not being run by, the likes of the top IT professionals, like say Google or Facebook or X or any of those. Those guys have some top tier security professionals because they're getting attacked every second. The water utility is not worried about that, or they weren't for the last, 20 years or so as tech has evolved. Now they're probably much more worried about it. But that's what we gotta. That's what's coming, and we've said it all along. It's sitting dormant, and it will strike when they want to make it happen. And that's really the question: is when are they going to do it?
I put this image on, and there's a picture of 1,000 words, right? Some may not know this, but China has over 1 million man army that is strictly digital. 1 million cyber military that these guys sitting here on the computer. It points out China's military has changed its strategy from intelligence gathering to infiltration. If everyone knows that their main strategy is infiltration, what does that make you think about who is coming over, the large group seen? And we'll cover this here in a second. In fact, when we're going to the few stories here in just a couple minutes, think about this army sitting here when you think of that. And then also think of the folks that are coming in by droves, not only here, other countries and Guam. Think about the Chinese police stations being set up in every NATO country. And think about the land being bought directly parallel to our bases. Think about the surveillance being done on all of our runways, on all of our airfields. And then think about the back doors into our systems. Then think about the part they play with Russia, Iran, Cuba, the new surveillance setup that they have in Cuba. Think about the setup what is going on, the big changes, the regime changes that are happening in South America. Think about what's going on with Venezuela. Think about what's going on down there. Think about what's happening in Mexico. Because it's all going to make sense once it starts popping off. And most of you will have already known what's happening. California, this is insane. Dozens of Chinese migrants spotted entering U.S. illegally in California border town of Jacumba, and they say they're here to take the money along with others from Turkey and Syria. So what they're painting this as is, they're here to take the jobs. They're here to take the money, right? Think about the last story we just talked about. Do you think they're here for the money, or do you think they're here for some other reasons? Now, there's actual images. These are groups, right? Mostly military-aged males. And then as far as the women, they don't have families. They all have, many of them have uniform gear as far as backpacks, as far as outfits. And they're normal outfits, but it's almost like somebody said, you have 4 pairs of sweatpants, 6 shirts, this, that, 8 pairs of socks. You make do with this. They have the same food and snacks. They have the same everything. They have the same haircuts. They have the similar placement, similar backstories. Think about that. As far as some of our border... Oh, and by the way, we also have Border Patrol agents in our audience. Thank you for every day that you go out there not knowing what you're going to run into. But they have said that not only is it true that there's an unusual number of certain countries, they said that it is exactly the same countries that has been in the news every single day. And they're saying that the Venezuelans that are coming in there's Chinese citizens that are fluent in many, many, many languages. So these guys are no joke. I'm sure that they just took every class in high school and aced them all, right? But they're all alone, 18 to 25-year-old men. As far as the groups that are coming in, why all of a sudden? Why now? Look at this image. Look at all the buzz cuts. Look at all the men. What the heck is going on here? See what I mean with the backpacks? You see that? That looks standard issue. Buzz cut males, 19, 20 years old. And then they mix in a few other people from somewhere else. All the military age males with the same gear, the same pants, same everything. Those guys all have the same gear, same water bottles, like they were given a pack. I'm sure they'll argue that, oh, they're given this at the groups where they pay $5,000 for a coyote to bring them across, and they give them all. No. Dex, go ahead.
One observation, I think one of the Middle Eastern pictures there, the guy's got a 511 tactical on, but maybe he just likes to shop there. It was donated. But if you further down, there's another chart that shows which countries top the asylum charts, and China is number one at the top of the list. All other countries combined would be more, but still, as far as a single country standing out, look at how large that number is in that chart. That's amazing. And the other interesting observation is they asked why. Why in California? Why would the Chinese immigrants be going, or migrants be going there? And they said it's because it's more likely the final destination. So as opposed to going in through Texas and then having to then move to California, they're wanting to be in California. They're wanting to be on the West Coast. So they're going in through that. And one of the cartels that controls that is the Sinaloa cartel. And that's where they're seeing and sending a lot of Chinese towards the California corridor.
Just to show you that chart. 0, 0, 0, 400, 500. December hits. 500. December, 6,000. Nothing to see here.
And the next one, the next chart.
And these were individuals granted defensive asylum by country of nationality. So not only are they crossing, but they're actually granted defensive asylum. Nothing to see here.
And that's only as of, I think the data on that says of 2022. So that's even old data. So you can imagine how much bigger it is now.
Yeah. And then that one number, somebody said there was a month of like 31,000. And here's one thing, and you guys can confirm this too. We've got Border Patrol agents. Have you been asked to fudge anything? You don't have to give specifics, but have you, and I don't want to get in, have you been asked to fudge numbers on anything? You can do it anonymously. Email me, adam@marfooglenews.com. Have you been asked to fudge numbers on things? That is what I have heard and what I have seen in forums. Why would they want you to do that? And then Hungary. So everybody talked about Turkey being the one that held up NATO. Now remember, Sweden is still not in. Sweden was held back. And everybody was like, oh, Turkey's holding Sweden back. Well, now Turkey's finally a part of it. Turkey's like, yep, somebody deposited the money we needed or something. Hungary is holding up Sweden. Hungary is still not backing them. And just happens, and this is just by coincidence, remember that, it's just a coincidence. China offers backing to Hungary in security matters and in law enforcement. I mean, that's kind of that says it all. Point made. China has offered long-term support to Budapest in the security field, expanding mutual ties beyond economic cooperation. Reuters reported on February 19th after Chinese Public Security Minister Wang Zhizong's visit in Hungary. So what does that mean? What is security support? What is long-term support in the security field? Does that mean their surveillance, their law enforcement, their technology in tracking and tracing people? And meanwhile, Hungary is the same group, the same country that is saying, hey, no Sweden in NATO, which is one of the things Russia does not want. Dex, isn't it? What the hell is, help in the security field as far as from China?
Well, it sounds to me like, Hungary's, either trying to play the role that Turkey and Erdogan played, which is let's work both sides and let's do what's best for ourselves. And maybe they're trying to get that going, or they're just flat out starting to turn away from the West and from NATO partnerships. And for them to do this would be for them to hold it up is a big deal. For them to then turn around while they're holding it up and start to build a partnership with China, who is part of the axis or whatever you want to call it of all the other groups that are against NATO. It's certainly going to fly in the face of the partnership that they have with NATO. I almost, if they keep it up, I'd almost see them getting booted out. And maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to leave and join, BRICS or something else. Who knows? We'll see. But they're holding this Sweden deal for a lot longer than they were expected. And I know that they have to have, they're supposed to have their parliamentary meeting that wasn't supposed to happen until the end of the month. So we'll have to see if the end of the month comes, which is only about 8 more days, if that happens and they don't approve it, then they're holding out for something, or they're doing something specific here.
It should be that if they want to get support from China, that they don't get to have a vote in holding back other NATO members from joining. I mean, something's got to change here. You would think that their system would have some sort of clause in there or some loophole that they're holding it up. They're the same country that's holding it. There's got to be a conflict of interest here. And who is okay with, China stepping in and helping with the security fields in NATO nations? What? But, NATO is focused and was built for against Russia, but Russia and China are no limits partners. So by relation, this is not something that NATO should be at all okay with. But we'll see. Before we move on, if you've ever lost your power, then you realize how dependent we are on it. Our recommendation for a generator specifically is a solar generator, because when the power goes out, so do the gas stations. If you do not have hundreds of gallons and barrels able to store in your apartment, or even on your land, if you don't have the money to buy $6 a gallon gas, this is a really great solution as far as being able to create power from nothing. Energy makes some of the toughest and well-built solar generators on the market. I looked at many back when, before I ever worked with energy. I looked at all of the competitors. I looked at all of the different ones. And again, I found some ones that compared to this and some ones that looked like, oh, this is really cool. It does all the same stuff. But it was a company that was directly, and you look up the companies that are competing that have the expandability, that are modular like this. You go and look and go, oh, this is something that you could get on Monday. They all have direct ties back to a country that I believe is thoroughly trying to screw us over. Specific, we've talked about them a lot tonight. As far as energy, you're going to have to wait. There's a wait period for every one of the Flex 1500s and Flex Tacticals. I highly recommend the Tactical. These are built to last. One of the things that really is a really great selling point is that the Tactical is actually designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory and Energy together, because this won the STTR Phase 2 contract for the Army. If you have to realize the Army cares about one thing: is this thing going to work? Is it going to work over and over? Is it going to work, time and time again? That's what the Tactical is. As far as in the time period, if you're worried about something goes down next month and I have to wait longer than that for my generator, that's why I've told people, if you can't wait that long, go get yourself a gas-powered generator in the meantime and wait. If you can't order this and go get one, I'd get a gas-powered generator, and when they are available quicker, sell your gas-powered generator, try to get your money back, and then go get one of these. These, again, are expandable. They're silent. Not only that, they are, as far as the Tactical, has built-in heaters in all the batteries for extreme cold, and it's water and dust resistance built with the steel frame. This thing can fall off a truck. It's got 1,500-pound latches. Not to mention, it can be altered. You save that power when your power goes out. You can turn this on and keep business as usual. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, it is silent. You can be a gray man. You can run it inside. And, of course, you can expand it or have it down to 1 and take it with you to work. Use it for power tools. Do whatever you want with it. Take it camping, power your campsite, or power your living room after a storm. Californians, I hope you guys have a backup generator, especially California. Solar would be the way to go. You got tons of power just sitting there for free. All right, and then you help us and you get a huge discount. So thank you, marfugglenews.com/energy, code Marfoogle. Dex, do you want to talk about the Philippines?
This is kind of scary. So look, the Philippines are claiming that the Chinese fishing vessels are basically going scorched earth and pumping cyanide into the contested waters. So this is specifically near a shoal that you can see right there on the screen. It's called the Scarborough Shoal. It's a fish-rich atoll in the South China Sea, contested by both Manila and Beijing. Both Philippines and China claim this area, so that's one of the many areas they continuously fight about. Now they said the Chinese fishermen are trying to destroy the resource. And they're basically saying, if we can't have it, then you can't have it. And so it is a very controversial fishing method that typically involves dumping a highly toxic chemical near the coral reefs and the fishing grounds in order to stun and kill the fish so they can be easily captured. So it's obviously it's a fishing technique, but it's also going to destroy that area. So they're basically coming in. The claim from the Philippines is that China's coming in. The fishermen are using these illegal methods of doing it, which also then destroys the area, so then they won't have their fishing grounds. So, wow, very interesting thing. I didn't even know that they did that. I didn't know that was an option to like literally put poison in the water to catch fish. I thought it would probably not be something you'd want to eat after that was in the water, but apparently that's what's going on, and that's what they're saying. And they think it's to intentionally destroy the area while they can also reap the benefits of snagging all the fish out of that area.
I don't know what to think about this. This sounds like really crazy. Like, why would they sacrifice it? Maybe they already have their own. And this is, if this is true, it's like this is the same China that says that they're the most sustainable, that they're on this path to being super, super sustainable. The entire world is giving them praise for how fast they're going, net zero and all of this. And then if they're truly doing this, but you never know what the motivation of who's reporting this. Like, I'm not a fan of China, as you may see, but I also think about what the propaganda about China could be too. But who knows? It's weird. You see so much about Russia. You don't see much. You don't know what is actually true and what's not. Most people believe most of the stuff that comes out of China. But I don't know. That one, I'm like, wow. So you're really going to destroy an entire area of the ocean? Wouldn't that have effects on the entire ocean? Sounds kind of crazy.
And apparently it was a common fishing technique back in like the 60s. Even the Philippines did it.
What does it do? Send the fish
or at least
flying to the top?
Yeah, apparently it brings them up, but I don't know if it stuns them or it must kill them too, I guess. But it's not good to put that in the water, especially for the reef and everything else in that area, not just the local fish that you're maybe trying to capture to sell or eat. But yeah, they used to do it. It used to be common, and they all sort of said, "Hey, we're going to stop." Now, occasionally there's people that still do it, but the claim is Chinese fishermen are doing it significantly around this area. So.
All right, and then Stephen McMahon, Adam, I was a cop for 20 years, and I'm sure they will, when called on, do their jobs and well. Told in academy, it's a thankless job. So Stephen McMahon, I don't know were you a cop since CV and all of that? That's a thing. I understand it's a thankless job in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of, especially small towns, that have really good cops. There's people I have friends and peers, like high impact Brian. Everybody knows he is not exactly a fan of any police. But there are things I agree with him on as far as, what he says about different law enforcement. And I think we've all met some of the guys who really have a chip on their shoulder. But I've also met such a plethora, especially living in small cities, living on Orcas Island. The cops were great there. They were incredibly helpful. They were the first ones to pull over and help somebody change their tire. There's a lot of really good police around the world. There's good people. Basically, it just comes down to these are good people behind the badge. And that's the sad part about what happened over the last few years. It was like automatically if you had a badge, you were a bad person. It doesn't absolutely go to everybody's head. It doesn't turn everybody into an egotistical jury. The laws and the things that they back up and enforce, you may have really critical things, then you're against it completely. But there are good police out there. I've met plenty of good people. But there's an argument there that same job can change people and can make people into a tyrant. But as far as thankless, like it's the opposite. Like people were treating them horribly. I don't know what state you were in, and I feel like you were in California, but maybe I'm wrong. People treated police horrible here. I saw many instances in person where they would be responding to somebody stealing from Target or something. People would walk by and literally spit towards them, scream at them, yell at them. I saw this on multiple occasions. And the crazy part is every time I went to Target or Walmart, there were police there responding and not doing anything. They weren't allowed to here about theft. And meanwhile, you walk by in a 30-second walk by to go in the store, you hear this. You can only imagine if they're sitting there for 2 hours, all of the stuff that is happening there. And then when things fall apart and then the police are the only structure left, I believe a lot of cops will be there and stand up on their job. But I do have to mention, when that same cop's family is in dire need, and if it's a real bad disaster, are they not going to go save their family first? We've seen when Hurricane Katrina hit, a lot of the sheriffs, they went and saved their own parents. There were nursing homes without power. They had to drive across the state to go get their family out of a nursing storm or across the city and try to save them. So there's things like that where it's like they may not be able to, or they'll be worried about their own family. I believe a lot will be on it. And if there's martial law and things like that, if they bring in military, this and that, it goes real south. Hurricane Katrina did. And Hurricane Katrina was something that they had written up plans for, that they knew was a possibility because of the levee. So they make plans for all of these kind of events. They do simulations, they do war games, but nothing prepares you for the real event. Stephen McMahon also says Chicago has the toughest gun laws in the USA. Yeah, exactly the point. Like you can outlaw weapons, just like alcohol and prohibition. If you outlaw something, if you make it completely banned, there will just be a bigger black market for it. Was there no alcohol during Prohibition? Absolutely not. You could get alcohol almost everywhere during Prohibition. It's just, it's nuts. And it turned it into a dangerous crime ring, you know? You can only imagine if you turn weapons into an illegal thing. Think about the deal's going to go sideways. Any deal that goes sideways is involving weapons. Whereas if weed is illegal or something, 90% of the people slanging it might not have a weapon on them. 100% of the people slanging weapons will have weapons on them. It will go south. Chicago has tough gun laws, and it still happens. It doesn't matter. You can't put all these gun laws and expect that gun violence is going to go away. That's just my opinion, though. Red Sea U.S. Admiral says the fight against the Houthis in the Red Sea is the largest battle. And by the way, they have gone underwater. So the main headline is that Houthis have gone underwater drones, right? This goes hand in hand with this. So let me just touch on that last one here real quick, just so you've got the gist of it. They say that the Houthis have developed underwater drones in the Red Sea, Defense Department says. Now, depending on what this means, basically, these underwater drones are hard to detect. And if they possibly can sink ships, which they say that they may have already sank some ships, that this is bad. I don't know if radar will, if the advanced ships will be able to detect these, but depending on the size, maybe they won't. If it puts a hole in the side of a military ship or a cargo ship or hundreds of cargo ships, if these things are cheap and ineffective, they could really screw up our entire supply chain. Dex, so along with the underwater drones, the Navy is saying that this is the largest battle since World War II. That's kind of crazy to think about. And remind them of the article. You talked about it earlier about the constant activity.
Well, yeah, we talked. Yeah, a couple of days ago, we were talking. A couple of shows back, we talked about the activity of the aircraft. They were aircraft carrier. They're saying, "Hey, this is what it's like for the aircraft carrier in the Red Sea." It was nonstop. They had planes in the air almost 24 hours, and crews were working 12-hour shifts on the deck to keep the deck flowing because there's so much action going on that they're constantly flying. Now, that alone puts a lot of risk at our soldiers or our Navy and pilots that are flying, just the fact that they have to continuously do that. But this admiral is saying, like, look, this is the biggest, largest Navy battle that they've fought since going back to World War II. They have not seen this much activity since that time period. And when you think about like you were just mentioning earlier, the drones, they said these surface drones, those like small, think of a personal watercraft or a jet ski, that size. They're really, really small. They're not tall because they don't have somebody riding on them. They're really flat and small. They said those are difficult and those are causing a challenge. And they have very little knowledge with technology and how to deal with them. Now that they've gone underwater and they've actually tracked the first one and had to fire munitions at it to stop it, that's an even bigger challenge because they just took the problem that they didn't know how to deal with on top of the water and made it 10 times more complicated by putting it under the water. So this is going to, either this is going to turn into, we're going to start to see our actual Navy ships getting hit, because we're about to talk in a minute about some other ships that have hit. And as a matter of fact, the first one has been claimed to be sunk or sinking. So, and that's what we said. That's when that happens, it's going to escalate everything. And so this is, as much as we sort of roll our eyes at what's going on over there in the Middle East, this is actually scaling up rather large right now.
Yeah, and it's not coincidence. They announced they've gone underwater. They've got the stuff, and now Houthis sink British ship in Red Sea. United Kingdom's Maritime Trade Organization, or Yokomandu. I don't know why I added Japanese to that, but reported Monday that the Houthis traveling in the Red Sea south of the port city of Mukha in Yemen. It is the first time since the start of Israel's war in Gaza the crew had to abandon their ship because of the Houthis. Initial reports stated that there were no casualties in the incident. The military officials who were in the area provided the crew with assistance. A report by Al Jazeera Network, which is based on a source in the field of shipping in Yemen, that Ansar Allah forces, or the Houthis in Yemen, attacked a British ship near Bab al-Mandab. The source added that the ship was significantly damaged, which caused it to stop in the water, and the crew called for help. As far as after the initial reports came in, the spokesman of the Houthi army, Hayya Sarri, claimed responsibility for the incident. According to him, the Houthi forces attacked the British ship Rubinmar, Gulf of Aden, with several missiles. According to him, the ship was badly damaged, its crew got out safely, and it is in danger of sinking. Sky News in Arabic reported that the ship had sunk. So there's conflicting reports whether it's sunk or sinking, or if it's bad enough to even sink. But more of the issue here is if this gets worse like this, there's just supply chain ships. That's where things can artificially go up or physically go up as far as the price of everything. Shipping gets screwed. Militaries get involved. Escalations happen. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, and we looked this one up. This is a cargo ship, guys. So it's a big cargo ship. I don't know how much cargo it may have had on it at the time. But if it really did sink, you've got not only the loss of the ship, you got the loss of all the cargo. And even if it didn't sink, the fact that the crew had to abandon the ship because it's no longer mobile and it can't be moved, that's a big deal too. So all of these things are sort of the big firsts that are going to escalate to a new level. We said it was one thing when they were just getting hit or they had to dodge missiles or it was too dangerous to go through. Now they've got a ship going, they had one taken, but now they've got a ship going potentially to the bottom of the sea there.
And now the Yemen Houthis say that 2 American ships were targeted in the Gulf of Aden. just to show you on the map, we were just over here talking about the Houthis sinking the ship. Over here, they're saying that they're targeting American ships. So this is something that it seems like it's going to be the pattern. And probably for the next 2 weeks, my predictions, just off of the patterns of how these things happen, is that this is going to be, this is actually going to be a recurring thing, especially now they've announced underwater and these surface drones. Whether it's all true or not, either way, they're priming us to tell us that some horrible event happens, like a second Pearl Harbor type thing. The thing is if they did sink, say, an American destroyer or something, think about that. If somehow they were able to do it, they're not going to care that it's funded by Iran. They're not just going to go over the Houthis. They're going after Iran. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and think about what you just showed on the map, in the fact that there's a ship sinking in the Red Sea, there's 2 ships being attacked in the Gulf of Aden, and we have a carrier group sitting in the Red Sea. And we talk about how active they have to be. They're looking at the land launches, but they're also trying to protect the ships through there. So those planes are having to, book it to a lot of different locations and try to cover a lot of different territory through there. It doesn't mean that it's only coming from that aircraft carrier. I'm sure we've got potentially some support coming out of Saudi Arabia, where we also have bases, but nonetheless, that's why that carrier is so busy dealing with that whole stretch through there, and also not trying to fly in ways that they can get taken down. That would be the worst, is that we hear one of our jets goes down because of something the Houthis launched at them.
Also, want to thank a member of the Navy, also Fugel fan member for 4 years. I want to thank you. They are serving on an aircraft carrier there, and they confirmed at least that it is active, that there are planes going up and down. So when that story came out, one of the things I doubted, I actually said it. I said, and they corrected me. They said, no, this is constant. There are people that they had an issue, some sort of issue with the launcher. Called it it's like a catapult or something. That system was down for like minutes, and it was a big deal because something happened in the minutes that it was down. So there are things going on there. Just to remind you on what we covered, and I doubted, was they said that the guy said that there's so much activity, it's like we're at a full-on scale war. That the carrier is launching and landing all day, every day, that there's planes leaving our carriers to deal with all of the different cargo ships because they're protecting these cargo ships from all of these different attacks. Now they're saying that it's as active as it was, or the most it's been active since World War II. It's a big Navy battle. What they confirmed is that they are launching every few minutes. It's like there's something going on. So I put my foot in my mouth, we have a lot of active and retired military here. To the active folks that are in right now, I'm praying for all of you guys, and I'm praying that, I think you said you were like 3 years in or something. It's kind of crazy to think about, you might get extended, or you might be there for WW3. I know it's it's kind of a scary fact that we're in this place right now, but don't be, everybody needs to realize, we have so much. We are so blessed in almost all of the countries watching this show. We are very, very blessed. And if this does go down, you can put yourself in a position where you're better off than most. As far as Navalny, there's an update here, kind of a big one. And it looks very familiar to somebody who we had perish in our New York jail. Apparently the cameras and everything was white. Navalny's body found and shows signs of bruising after mystery spies were seen at the prison. Anything like this is probably going to reek of some sort of op, whether it be Russians or whether it be Americans or somebody else in between. But critics of the Russian regime have accused Vladimir Putin of sending spies to disconnect CCTV cameras at a prison complex just days before prominent Kremlin opponent Alexei Navalny died. So, Dex, first of all, what surprised me is that the cameras were disconnected days before. Is that like what? Days before. And then what else?
Or just the fact that the FSB, several officers from FSB's intelligence services were there visiting the camp that week. The week he perishes, earlier that week, they were there. So yeah, they say that the CCTV cameras were shut down off the complex in the hours before, as well as suggesting the speed. This is crazy. At which the authorities had made comments on the incident. So they said a well-prepared statement, likened by the organization to a press release, was issued by the prison no less than 2 minutes after his perishing. It was supposed to have taken place. So they claimed that his time of perishing was a specific time. That press release came out 2 minutes later. Okay, a well-polished, well-prepared statement. They also said that within 7 minutes of the declared time that they put down as his time of death, that the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was addressing the country's press 7 minutes after. So they're saying that, when you take the fact that the FSB was there, you take the fact that the cameras weren't working and were working before they were there, when you take the fact that that press release was, polished and ready to roll 2 minutes after, and Peskov was addressing the country, the obvious answer was the whole thing was planned.
So nobody really knows what to believe in what happened there. Everybody's going to have their theory. Everybody's going to have their thoughts on what really happened to him. But I guess the main thing is, what are the results from him perishing? There's definitely protests all over Russia for those who supported him. There's words in NATO, and now they are able to use this as why the big bad boogeyman is going to come get us, and how low he would sink to avoid being taken out of power. There's motivation on both sides to do this. So as far as the FSB stuff, can that be absolutely confirmed that 2 minutes after? When did he really perish? Well, we know it was at least a day. He was on a live appearance the day before. So, was it really 2 minutes after that they announced it? Was it really 7 minutes after? We don't know that. But I know one thing, most people doubt what legacy media tells us, so we don't know what to think. We also can't trust what Russia says straight out. And
it could also just be that they were lazy when they did the paperwork, right? Like they had to fill out the paperwork for the certificate of perishing. And the guy doing it might have just said, oh, yeah, well, we announced that 10 minutes ago, so he died. Yeah, we'll put it down there. We don't really care. So it could have just been that.
Or,
but it makes it look bad.
Or it was an American doing the time, and they couldn't read an analog clock. And they tried to write in cursive, but it just ended up in a shaky doctor's note. I don't know. Because now people get it. The young people can't read a clock. It's pretty sad. But who knows? In Russia, they may teach them. I don't know. Do they have cursive in Russian? I wonder. Is cursive a United States thing? I would think it would be it would be harder to do with like Chinese, like where symbols, right? Sure, they have their quick hand type thing. All right, and
Spanish and French and English.
Huh. So nobody else has.
I think there was a version of it in Egyptian, they say. I'm just looked it up, so I don't really know.
Okay, so before we go over to San Francisco, this is nuts. Just a reminder, if you are looking on how to get a lot of, as far as prep food, first of all, it is expensive in general to start prepping. One of the reasons why we suggest you go through My Patriot Supply, they have freeze-dried food, which is all prepackaged. It's all ready to go. It's very space efficient because the function of freeze drying to remove all of the moisture, to basically take everything out of it, compact it down to the smallest possible package, sealed in Mylar bags. The freeze-dried food can 25 years or more. It takes up very little space, and this is one of the most affordable ways to do it. Then in 10 years from now, when you want to eat it, you just add water or cook in water, and it restores almost everything back. In fact, freeze drying keeps almost all of the flavor and almost all of the nutrients in it. It's a very, very efficient way to preserve food. But again, this is an expensive thing to either do yourself if you are to invest in a harvest right, something like that, or if you buy prepackaged, it's gone up. It's tripled in price in the last 3 years. So this is our suggestion, especially since now everybody's on a budget. This is one of the most affordable ways and the biggest discount you can possibly get for freeze-dried food. And right now they have a month supply. It's a smaller starting point, but you can get multiples of them at the discount. Again, they have the 1 month that is on sale right now. Dex, do you remember what the exact sale was? And I know it's on the 1 month, but it's like it was on the 3 month. Yeah, now they've reduced it.
It's a 4-week emergency food supply kit. It's now $60 off, and it's a great deal. And if you're interested, I believe they are running a promo where on the page 2 where you can sign up to win. So you may be able to win a 3-month supply or a 4-week. I don't remember what they're giving away, but they're giving away food too. So sign up on that if you want to try a chance to win. It's on the page.
And if you've thought about what you're going to do for water, over there they have the Alexa Pure. That is a water filtration system. Again, it gets rid of 99% of all the nasty stuff, including pharmaceuticals that could be in your water. Again, really great system. Go over there, marfooglenews.com/prep. All right, and then that helps support us. If you're new here, we're completely independent. We are on our own. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have anybody backing us up. So again, thank you guys for your support. But more so, the biggest support is sharing us with somebody who has never seen us. We are definitely not anything news or anything related. There's a conflict going on between legacy media and independent. Independent is where everybody's going. They realize this. They know this. That is why all of the big places that serve up media, they're getting paid by legacy media. Say, hey, can you suggest us on the first 100 pages? Suggest those other guys that aren't paying you. Put them 30 pages deep. So, just saying, it's a lot easier to help us find somebody that would like our content if you are sharing it with them. I'm sure there's people that should be watching or could be watching if you guys help us out. It's very much appreciated. It's a small community here. It's really lovely to have everybody that does share us out, that do represent us. We appreciate you. And then this is nuts. It is so obvious what is happening right now. I cannot believe this. They removed a requirement for you to be born here to be a part of the boards and the committees. San Fran, an immigrant from Hong Kong, becomes first non-U.S. citizen appointed to San Francisco Commission for the ballot day, right? And I just want to remind you, I've got this video over on hold on here. Let me make sure don't want to play anything here. Let's see here. So gave the congratulatory speech, acceptance speech, in Chinese. This is San Francisco, mind you. Gives speech in Chinese after being chosen to serve in their ballot day commission, despite FEC rules banning foreigners from taking part in the electoral process at local, state, and federal level. What do you guys think of this? Dex, go ahead.
I've never heard of this. I mean, because there's the FEC, which has rules, as it says. You can't be a foreigner and hold a role like this, but they apparently can. I mean, I guess they make it up as they want in San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco's always been on the edge, but wow, this is I've never heard of this before, and it's I would think more people would be talking about it. This is sort of back page as far as I can tell.
Yeah, why is this not the front page right now? And by the way, is this the same? Isn't it San Francisco that held that event that cleaned up overnight? Was that wasn't San Francisco, was it?
Oh, of course it was. My gosh,
Oh,
they
you're
turned the
right.
city. They turned the city from a dump into a, they put lipstick on a pig, so to speak, just so Xi could come in and feel like it was pretty.
If you did not know, when Xi visited for the summit, I always forget the name of the summit. It's the APEC. Was it the APEC? I think it was the APEC.
Yes.
For the APEC summit, however many, 20 plus countries came, 20 plus leaders, all that, Taiwan, all these guys. China asked and received, they said, we want you to bring people in with Chinese flags and line the streets with Chinese flags. We want basically, they got a red carpet welcome. Not only that, this was the big debate. And this a few months ago, and I know most of you know this. They cleaned up San Francisco overnight. They cleared the streets. They cleared the homeless encampments. They pressure washed the whole thing. They cleaned up the entire area of the APEC summit and the entire entrance. And when Xi came in his limo, lined the streets with Chinese flags. Mind you, there was not other countries' flags mixed in. It was just China. It was like we were bringing in the king of the world. The same city that did all of that is doing this. The same city where, you've got Governor Newsom flying unexpectedly, unannounced to China to meet Xi personally, when some of the highest ranking officials have not met with him personally. Newsom gets a private tour with Xi and gets to meet him personally. For what reason? Oh, well, they said he was checking out electric cars and it was for the environment. The same state that accidentally leaked every single weapon owner's address and location and how many weapons they had. The same state that has, 60% of their cranes have a backdoor that they absolutely know about that control all of our incoming shipments. Same state that has had all of the mysterious events over the last couple years. Same state. Now this. It's not wrong to think that this is wrong. Like this has been a rule for a long time. There's a good reason for it. Quite crazy if you ask me. By the way, some of the comments on here, let's see here. Craig McClure, upside down. Bunny says Xi's gift to Newsom after his visit to China. There's actually a lot more. Hold on. I don't know why I didn't click on it here. One thing I've noticed, and gosh, I cannot believe, I can't do it on here. Oh man, there's other stuff going on too. We're going to cover tomorrow. Yeah, and you guys got to join us for the tomorrow's show. I don't want to tease, but it's going to be going. And then let's see here. And then New York City, T-Man supporting truckers and vow their boycott could shut New York City down after $355 million fraud ruling. So they of course ruled. Now Trump, unless his appeal, and I'm sure that he's going to file an appeal, he will owe $350 million in this fraud case thing. He is supporting the boycott against New York. And these are truckers that are fed up. They have stated in their comments that they're not trying to hurt New Yorkers. That's not what they're doing, but they're mad and they're threatening to basically shut down. They say even if 10% of these truckers do not show up, it could seriously harm the state in general if this happens. Where it would seriously harm New York City. New York City and New York State, by the way, I believe is number one. Their GDP is $9 billion, or no, isn't it $9 trillion? I think it's something crazy. Like all of Russia's GDP is less than that of New York. Their entire GDP is less than New York's, just the state of New York's GDP. So it's a big deal when you're talking about
2 billion.
2 billion. That's right. Yeah. So their entire, wait, I heard 9 billion. So maybe, no, maybe I'm thinking of but still, it's bigger than the GDP of Russia, right? Yeah, does that make sense? Something doesn't make sense about that. I'll fix it. Just don't even, let's say, if
It's
we're,
trillion, not billion. Sorry.
okay.
Too many commas. Can't read them all. But yes, it's 2 is New York and 1.7 is Russia.
Okay. Because I was going to say like a court of law. Scratch that last part. But yeah, again, trillions. New York brings in trillions to the country. California is like number 5. There's this list of all of it, but New York is big money. So when they threaten to stop delivering, which I think these kind of things, these are the people showing what they want. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of truckers basically standing up. Famously in Canada, they had the trucker strike. They actually solved that in one of the most disturbing ways possible. They cut the truckers' bank accounts off. That was a scary one. And a lot of you are in Canada tonight. What do you guys think of that? But this, DT is supporting it. Dex, when you saw that Trump was supporting this, what did you think?
Well, what's interesting to me, of course he's going to support it if anybody's getting behind him, because the claims are pretty big. The claims are like, look, if only 10% of us stop doing deliveries there, it's going to hurt them. And then they claim that 95, and now this is just there's no statistics, no like backing on this. It's just someone's claim. But they claim that 95% of truckers will support him or do support him. And that they said that their bosses of the freight companies, they're not going to care if they deny the loads. We'll just go somewhere else because they've got plenty of work to do. So it's an interesting, I don't know that anybody's actually done a survey of truckers to see, how many truckers actually support him or not, or on one side or the other, if side, to that extent. But it could be serious if it's as big as they're claiming, and if enough people are getting behind it, and all it takes is 10% to really jack up the prices in New York City for people, because they will be difficult to get goods and services in there. It'll cost a lot more. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because the truckers are, and we have a ton of truckers in our community. Well, I know you guys are listening right now on the road, so maybe if you get time when you're not driving, you want to leave a comment down below and tell us if you're hearing this, if this is just a couple people making a bunch of hay, or if it's really a movement or really a philosophy and a thought for a lot of truckers. Do you guys all, do you agree with that or not? It'd be interesting to hear what you have to say in the comments.
I'll go a step further. If you are a trucker and you are pulled over after listening to our show, we have a ton that listen on the road as a podcast. Give us a call at 224400MARF. And what is the option? Is it 3? It's
3.
Is it option 3. You can leave a message. Are you going to play a part in this? Are you going to strike? Are you, if this all happens, is this going to be something you participate in? Do you know people that are? Leave us a phone message and it may be played on air. We'd love to hear from you. All right. And craziness everywhere. Elon Musk has a game plan to send 1 million people to Mars. You're like, wait, this is an old headline, right? Well, reiterating, people have forgot that he said by 2030 or 2029, we will send 1 million people to Mars. Now, I think it's interesting that it's 2029, the same year that Apophis is coming around the first time. 2036 is the second time Apophis is supposed to be swooping by. Initially, there was when it first came out, people looked at the numbers for Apophis and they go, oh my gosh, it might actually hit Earth. And then they said, oh no, we followed it for longer and got a better estimate, and it's not going to hit Earth, or it won't even come close. But I think it's interesting that it's going to come by so closely that actually Osiris Rex is now Osiris Apex, and it will land on Apophis. But at the same time, all these things have come into play. All of these countries have gotten involved in space. All of these countries are trying to get to the moon, and from the moon to Mars. And they're speeding this up. Even though our world is falling apart, they're still spending their budgets on space. Mind you, they've also told us over the years that there's billions or trillions of dollars in resources in space, right? I understand a chunk of you don't believe in any of it. But for those of you that do, like, this is pretty insane. And I wonder, like, will this solve any kind of argument about what happens up there? if people start actually going to Mars. Is this going to be the rich rapture, right? It won't be from God. It will be from a humanly God that takes the rich and the elite up to Mars. Meanwhile, a disaster happens here on Earth. It's so weird to me that so many rich and elite are building bunkers at the same time. Somebody who has admitted that thinks that the only way for the human race to survive is if we all go if we're a multi-planetary society. Let me read a part of this because this is kind of freaky. It says Elon Musk says he wants to take 1 million people to Mars, and he claims is working on a, quote, game plan to achieve just that. The world's richest man previously estimated that humans will land on the red planet in 2029. His company, SpaceX, initially set their target for their first manned trip to Mars this year. That, however, has been pushed back to 2026. I know a lot of people are going, of course it was, right? Well, I actually suggested, I'm like, well, we'll see when it comes launch time and just watch. They'll end up having some sort of delay. It says his company, SpaceX, initially set their target for the first trip in this year and moved to 2026. And it said he hasn't said much about the plans in recent months. That is until last week when he told followers on X that, quote, a game plan is in the works. Replying to a post claiming SpaceX's Starship will take us to Mars, Musk said, we are mapping out a game plan to get 1 million people to Mars. Civilization only passes the single planet great filter when Mars can survive, even if the Earth supply ships stop coming. It can only pass the single planet great filter. And when he's saying great filter, he's meaning like it's a creepy thing to think about. When Mars can survive, even if Earth supply ships stop coming. Now, I know there's a chunk of you that do think of this like, hey, and do think that something may be going on and that maybe all of this is all happening for a reason. Why all of these countries are in this all of a sudden rush to take over their neighbors and to get as much resources as possible. Why, again, look at all of the countries that are trying to take over their neighbor and trying to do land grabs right now. I've done the list a million times. You guys know all the countries involved in conflicts. Why? Why is it being spurred on right now? Is it just because adversaries versus NATO, this and that? Well, why is all of this happening? Is there something that is going to happen that they know about and we don't? And mind you, they say that the end of the world is coming on both sides. On one side, they say it's coming from nuclear war. On the other side, they say it's coming because the weather is going to be so bad we won't be able to live here, right? Either way, the fear mongers are most definitely on both sides of the party, right? They say, i.e., the great change of the weather or nuclear Armageddon. The great filter refers to an idea that a species, humanity in this case, must make it past some form of barrier to survival, i.e., both of those. The concept of the great filter is one possible answer to the Fermi paradox, which describes the discrepancy between the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life and the likelihood of there being extraterrestrial life somewhere in the universe. Musk has long said humanity must become a multi-planet species to ensure a long-term survival. He said back in 2021, we don't want to be one of those single-planet species. We want to be a multi-planet species. I know there's some of you that are thinking he is a freaking alien. Like, I know a lot of people that think he is legit, like from a different planet, that he was sent here to like do all this stuff. Whatever you may think, aliens came to this universe to bring us PayPal. PayPal. But again, even if he is an alien, it's creepy. It says it's now been almost half a century since humans were last on the moon. That's too long. We need to get back there and have a permanent base on the moon. And then he points out again, right? Like a big permanently occupied base on the moon and then build a city on Mars to become a spacefaring civilization, a multi-planet species. I guess I'm always given the benefit of the doubt. I always think, I'm like, I leave all the doors open. I also leave the doors open that all of it is total BS, right? But I also leave this door open, and I feel like my gut tells me that there is something wrong, that there's a reason, if they are truly going to Mars and the moon, that there is something horribly wrong that they will not tell the public because they want you to keep doing your 9 to 5. They want you to do this. Even if not, if you can even have any foresight of where AI and robotics are going and technology, then you will understand they're going to have 8+ billion people on the world. And exactly how many jobs are actually going to be needed, how many people are going to be needed to fulfill those jobs, I don't know. Because every single day there's a new job that they're like, oh yeah, this will actually be able to be accomplished by a robot or AI very soon. I think Sora really brought in a lot of people that were not in this conversation into it. Most people go, AI, schmai. It's a trend. It's a fad. It's not that great. They think it's all good. After Sora videos came out, if those are truly AI generated like they say they are, which I assume they are, that is absolutely terrifying. If they can make real life looking videos and basically make a prompt and say, I want the president saying this, or I want this or that, or I want a movie of this, we are in vast trouble. It is serious at this point. Every category is about to be replaced. What do you do with the people in that instance? How does the system work? The current system, if this system is built on people working and making money, and economy is built on all of this, when in the future you won't need that, like in shows like Star Trek and in Star Wars, in a lot of it, I guess they do have currency, but in Star Trek, the idea of money is gone. Like it's not about money, right? They might have a credit system, but mostly I think the Federation in Star Trek, it's like they're past money, right? Because what is money useful for if there's no traditional things like that? Could you see us being a moneyless system? What happens then? Or if there's no jobs for people and if there's just 7 billion people standing around, maybe they don't want that. Maybe they're like, well, maybe we just need to reduce how many people we have. Maybe we should keep it down to around 500,000. I don't know. Just saying. Maybe somebody said that somewhere. In the future, they probably won't know anybody said that because they destroyed the tablet saying it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think Musk is taking us off planet because something is going on? Or do you think it's all a bunch of hubbub? Or do you have your own theory? Let me know. By the way, JWinch99, thank you, says pew pew for now. I'm sorry if I hope you watched the replay. JWinch99, well off to bed, setting someone up their off-grid system. That is awesome, JWinch. Tons of great cops and military, always a bad apple. And then Beer Juice, thank you so much. Thank you guys both for the Ninja Guineas over on DLive. Thank you guys so much for keeping that alive. JWinch, thank you so much. Again, let's see here. We've got Beer Juice. Thank you. You guys, thank you for keeping DLive active over there. Thank you guys, Chance, for, of course, modding over there. Make sure to thank him as well by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. Go check out his books on Amazon. Fractured Fusion, Kimbria, Vault Music, thank you. I hope you're doing well. Kimbria, Steely Dan, thank you. And Beer Juice, thank you for gifting out badges over there on DLive. Specifically to Steely Dan, thank you. As well to Laura Griffith. Thank you guys. All right, and yeah, crazy stuff going on. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, it is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It is a shoutro. We will port you right over to Jams if you are interested today. Again, I believe our top supporter is JWinch99. Thank you, and thank you over on DLive. Appreciate everybody that has stopped by. Again, thank you. Craig Alicious says, I back the blue, but cops here were hammering non-violent protesters with rubber bullets during CV. That's also true. You should have seen it here. It was nuts. They weren't anywhere. The gangsters spat at us then in the 2010s. Chicago called us names, always claimed brutality. 1 out of 100 cops returned the favor. I believe that too. I believe there's a lot of good guys too. I as well back them. I believe maybe that's what put a wedge between me and a couple people. But yeah, I guess that's something that people just don't really bend on. All right, well, thank you guys. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. We'll see you over on Jams.